So this is the outside of Willard Library, the historic building where the Gray Lady is. We have a interview with the director. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. We're gonna actually walk up to there and I'll show you what you see coming inside of the front of Willard Library. There's the gorgeous building. Here's the plaque for it. It was established and endowed in 1876 by Willard Carpenter, opened March 28th, 1885. So let's go ahead and head in. Gorgeous doors. You see all the woodwork that it took, all the hard work that it took to carve out the woodwork. If you guys ever are here in Evansville, Indiana, definitely check it out. These doors are super heavy too.
Doors extremely heavy.
So you get another door here, and they have got it decorated for the Gray Lady. You got it. And you've got this statue for Halloween. You've got the banister, but let's go ahead and meet up with Greg, and I will see you guys. This is Greg Hager with Willard Library, and we're gonna do the interview. I will, if he says it's okay, I'll go ahead and leave his email in the description. Would that be okay if we go ahead and do that? And if they have any questions about it, Willard Library, leaving your email in the description or no?
Yeah, it's public email address.
Okay. So we'll first go over the history of Willard Library. So Greg, how long have you been with Willard Library for?
I have been at Willard Library for 26 years.
Okay.
And I've been the director for 25 of those years.
Oh, that's awesome. And do you like it?
I love my job.
Love your job?
Yeah.
And when was Willard Library built?
Willard Library was, the construction first began in 1876.
Okay.
And there was a national depression that kind of struck the economy, so they stopped construction. They put down the foundation, but they had to cease the project. And the project didn't resume until, I believe, 1882, and it was finally opened to the public in 1885.
Okay. Why was that? Do you know for sure?
What the slowdown was?
Uh-huh.
Willard Carpenter was worried about his money because Willard Carpenter was the library founder.
Okay.
And while he established the library and what the library was going to do and the purpose of the library, he was also endowing the library with his own money. Mm-hmm. And when this national depression hit the economy, he just was worried about could he afford to do this? So at that point, they just halted the construction, and the field was still here. It was still open. In fact, it was where the circus was held.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
During that time, yeah. And there was a story in one of the Evansville newspapers that pointed out how ugly the library foundation looked, and that the library project should either be advanced or abandoned. So it was advanced, and it became the library that you see today.
Okay. I mean, it's a gorgeous building. I mean, very historic, gorgeous.
It is the oldest public library building in the state.
Oh wow. Okay. I think I know about that, but for the viewers,
Sure.
they get a little bit more information about it. Who was the founder of Willard Library, which you said?
A man named Willard Carpenter. He was a self-made millionaire. He started out from Vermont, worked his way west. He worked as a tanner, a school teacher. He was a worker on the Erie Canal. Mm-hmm. He came to Evansville to be in a partnership with his brother
wow.
in a dry goods business. I think I want to say 1837 was the year he first arrived in Evansville. And he began investing in a lot of different projects, but he made the bulk of his money, the bulk of his fortune through land speculation and a little bit of railroad speculation too. Mm-hmm. Fascinating man.
And back then, with being in so many businesses in those high, like the different businesses, being up higher and making more money, that was a lot of money back then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was quite wealthy.
And do you know some background information about him?
He was a strange guy.
Strange guy.
He was a very strange man. You'll note that the library is named Willard Library. His last name is Carpenter.
Right.
So it's not the Carpenter Library, it's Willard Library because it was his library.
And we do have the Carpenter house here in Evansville,
Well,
correct?
that was his home.
That was his home?
Yeah, so he was able to be in his house, and this was before the Lloyd Expressway, obviously. He could look out the window of his house and see the construction happening over at the library because it was almost literally across the street.
Right.
So yeah, Willard Carpenter is described as being an eccentric philanthropist. He was known as being a little bit stingy, kind of miserly, and he had some just strange personal habits. If he got mud on his suit, he would continue to wear it. He was the wealthiest man in town, but he was like, I don't want to stop and have this cleaned, or pay to have it cleaned, for that matter. He would save. So he was a cigar smoker, and he would save his used cigars, and even was known to pick up used cigars off the street, and he would save them in a coffee can by his bed, and he'd get them out later to chew on. So he had some weirdness.
And then what year was the library opened?
It was open to the public on March 28th, 1885.
1885, wow, that was a very long time ago.
It was.
And what was the history of Willard Library?
Well, I mean, there's a whole book devoted to the history of Willard Library, 400 pages long. But generally, Willard Library is the oldest public library building in the state.
Right.
When Willard Carpenter, the founder, when he was arriving at the decision to build a library, he actually began with the idea of wanting to build a college for women. Mm-hmm. And he would have located this college for women out on Coal Mine Hill, or what we know in Evansville now today as Wrights Hill.
Okay.
So he wanted it to be there. He wanted it to be a college. He wanted it to be a college for women, and he just didn't have enough money. Even though he was the wealthiest man in town, he just didn't have enough money to adequately endow a college. So some of his friends, including one of his good friends, Colonel Denby, kind of talked him into the idea of having a public library, because that was something that Evansville didn't have. So Willard Carpenter thought about that. He thought about his own personal work ethic. And the more he thought about it, the more the idea appealed to him, in that he was a big believer in somebody improving their station in life through education and hard work. Hard work and education, particularly reading, was very central to his belief. Now, so when he said public library, Willard Carpenter was a staunch abolitionist.
Oh, what?
A staunch abolitionist.
And what is that?
Somebody who was adamantly and vigorously opposed to slavery.
Okay.
When he said public library, he meant everybody.
Oh, wow.
And in 1885, that was nearly unheard of.
Right.
I mean, minorities would be able to use the library. Everybody was able to use the library equally. Mm-hmm. Children, adults, men, women, people of color. I mean, all races, creeds, and religions. He made that very, very clear and laid that out before this building ever opened.
Okay.
So once he had done that and made those specifications, the construction began. And when the construction restarted, he could be seen carrying brick and mortar up and down the scaffolding, working as hard as other people on the job. And unfortunately, he overdid it. And in late October of 1883, he suffered a massive stroke, and he died later. He never saw this building open to the public.
That's sad.
It is sad. But I think if he were here today and he could see what we were doing and everything that was happening, he would like what he created.
Oh yeah, I think so. Do you think his, this isn't really about the history, but do you think his spirit maybe haunts the library?
Some people have suggested that. Some
Okay.
people have said that they've seen an older man, an older gentleman, I guess, in some of the ghost cams.
Yeah. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Let you know about it. I'll leave a link in the description about the ghost cams, I think. And whenever I talked about it, my last video about that I was going to do this, I think I left a link in there for them to watch the ghost cams.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah. And then how many years did it take to build the library? Was it a 24/7 job?
No, it was not a 24/7 job because they really didn't have the kind of equipment to make it a 24/7 job. So
Right.
it was very much happened during the daylight. Now they would get here early and work late, but it was not like they weren't working through the night. They didn't have claim lights and stuff like we do
Okay.
today.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. Was some of it built by candlelight?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I have not had that. It would have to be a heck of a candle.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What year was because I'll show them the new edition on the library.
Yes, yeah.
But what year was that?
It was February 7th of 2015.
2015.
That edition, yeah.
It's really pretty too. I'll show them the
Thank you.
inside of it.
Yeah, we when I say we, the design team, and I was part of that design team, we worked really hard to make sure that the architectural elements that we were using in the new structure at least resembled and if you go into the new section from the historic section, your senses aren't going to be jarred by the change.
Right.
And we really wanted to make it that way. And I think by and large we succeeded.
Yeah.
So.
And I know whenever you do the ghost tours, you have the TV where people have actually caught pictures of the ghosts in there,
That
or
right.
the spirit. So now we'll go ahead and get into the Gray Lady questions. That's probably why a lot of you guys are watching. The first one is, who is she rumored to be?
Some people say that she is the daughter of the library founder. There's a lot of back and forth on that. Louise Carpenter was definitely, we know this for a fact, was definitely not happy with the library. Mm-hmm. She was not happy with her father. She and her father did not really get along very well in life. For example, Louise was married to a man that Willard Carpenter didn't really like. And honestly, for that matter, Louise didn't really like him much either. Mm-hmm. But and Willard Carpenter would tell her, you know, to divorce him, and they did finally get a divorce.
Right.
After Willard Carpenter died.
Oh, okay.
So there was some friction there, and then definitely over her father's estate when he left the bulk of his fortune to support this library. She didn't feel like she got her fair share, sued the library, and lost. So some people say because of that animosity and that grudge, the Gray Lady is Louise Carpenter.
Yeah. I don't think I wrote it down, but did the ex, I don't know how it was back then, but did the ex try and come and take any money from this? Well, she had lost, so.
Right.
But I didn't know if he thought about that before it was settled or not.
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge, okay. And then who do you think she is?
See, I'm a skeptic.
Skeptic? Okay.
So, I mean, anybody who works here can tell you about strange energy days.
Oh, yeah.
I can too. I mean, I've seen things, strange things. I've heard strange things. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people that I really like to see something to believe it or have it proven to me in certain scientific fact. Mm-hmm. I like science a lot, so I'm not a total believer.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh well, some people believe and some people are skeptics.
Oh yeah, and I work with people that are firm believers.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think I wrote this down, but the Gray Lady tours, there's a really sweet lady that they talk about. I forget her name. She works in the children's library.
She worked in the children's library, Miss Margaret.
Miss Margaret, yeah.
Yeah. She is an employee at Willard Library that had, I mean, she's long since passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I wish I had known her. She was here before my time.
Okay.
But for people that are from Evansville, lived in Evansville,
mm-hmm.
she was sometimes their first contact with any library and any librarian ever. And so there's a lot of fond memories of Miss Margaret. And she did have a lot of encounters with the ghost. Mm-hmm. And she came to regard the ghost as a friend. Just somebody else that she would see. And it didn't give her any qualms or problems. She's just kind of a fact of life.
And definitely you guys should come here when the Gray Lady tours are. I'll get a postcard and post a photo of different times. If you guys want to come, they do have them. It's this weekend, next weekend, and is it the following weekend after that too?
It will be, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday of the last 3 weekends in October. So we are doing them all the way to Halloween. So some people get confused about that, and they'll be calling us on the day of Halloween saying, "I'd like to get a tour."
Yeah.
The tours are done, you know.
Right.
So just be aware of that, and definitely if anybody is going to come to the tour, registrations are required. I mean,
Yep.
otherwise you're not going to have a spot. It's just that popular.
Okay. And so, what was the first Gray Lady experience here?
First Gray Lady experience, first recorded Gray Lady experience that we know of happened in 1937.
Okay.
Happened in February of 1937, and just possibly coincidentally, that was also when Evansville had a flood. The flood had just actually happened, the giant flood of 1937 that flooded the entire city, and it was catastrophic. So it was right after that. The library custodian was responsible for coming in to the library in the morning, and he needed to like stoke the coal-fired furnace for the day so that the library would warm up. So he was in around 3 a.m. We go down into the basement, and the basement then doesn't look like our basement now. It was very brick floor. It was dark. We had a flashlight. It was not well lit, kind of gloomy. Anyway, he approached the furnace, which is the site of the furnace is kind of near a junction of a couple hallways in the basement today. So if anybody wants to see the original spot, that it's kind of after this where these hallways all join up.
Okay.
He came face to ghost with a figure, and he was the first person to describe the figure as being female. He described her as wearing a gray Victorian style dress. He said there was like a gauzy material over her face. Couldn't see facial features very well. Lace up Victorian style shoes. So very much a dress kind of appearance. And he did not like that. he did not appreciate that encounter. In the words of the day, shortly after that, he took to drink, and nobody would believe it. They just thought he was this old drunk guy telling stories about some ghost that yeah, okay, there's a ghost, sure. And he is the only employee to leave the employment of the library on site as his reason for doing so, seeing the ghost.
Oh wow. Yeah, back then, it wasn't heard of like it was today. People, more people are opening up about it and things like that. So definitely, I mean, you thought he was insane.
Right.
So
yeah, that's what people thought. This is some crazy drunk guy.
Do you believe there's more than one spirit, i.e., the Gray Lady haunting Willard?
Okay, we do a paranormal investigation, opening up to paranormal investigative teams.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Once a year.
Okay.
This year that'll be happening on October 19th. It is not open to the public.
Right.
But anybody who's watching the cams can see things happening.
Oh, cool.
See them doing research and stuff. So we bring in a paranormal team every year, and some of them do, similar things, but some of them do, different types of measurements. Most of the teams that have been here have agreed that there's certainly more than one entity. One team identified up to 8 or 9 different entities.
Okay. Are you able to tell us who will be here this year, or is that going to be kept
private? It's a group from Lafayette, Indiana.
Okay.
Called Wabash Paranormal Society, I believe.
Okay. So. Oh, awesome. Okay. I think before we've driven past here and seen, like, I think it was maybe a year or two ago, the vans and stuff, we were wondering what was going on out here.
Could have been that.
Yeah. And then we've got, do you have any personal experiences?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've seen weird stuff. Weird things with the electrical system, weird things with water. There does seem to be, some kind of issue with the Gray Lady and water, reportedly. Early in my tenure here, I was, it would have been 1995, in May. It would have been, in fact, it was the second Monday in May of 1995, and I know this because that is in May, that was the day that's specified as the annual Willard Library Board of Trustees meeting.
Okay.
So the library was, during those years, the library was always closed on Monday. That was just the practice. We've since changed that practice, but So the library was closed for business, but we still had this meeting happening.
Okay.
So I was upstairs on the second floor in the bedroom waiting for the board meeting to begin and the board members to get there. There was the business manager for the library was downstairs on the first floor, and she was waiting for the people to let people through the front door because the door was locked.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going through my meeting notes, and I'm sitting at the end of the table and just kind of going through some stuff, and I hear what I would describe as footsteps come across the wooden floor of the second floor, and it makes kind of a distinctive sound up there. And I thought, okay, somebody's here for the meeting, and I was waiting for somebody to come into the room, and nobody did. So it was like, I got up, and I thought maybe they were, it was one of the members had gotten there early, and they were just looking at some books or something, and I was just going to go out and talk to them, and nobody was there. I looked all around, hello, nobody. So I went downstairs, and I said to the business manager, did you come upstairs? Maybe you were going to bring me something and, forgot, whatever. Mm-hmm. And she said, no, I haven't been up on the second floor. So I heard what I would characterize as footsteps at a time when nobody else was in the building to make those footsteps happen. My brain also says, hey, old buildings make funny noises, and they do. So, there is that. Now, like I said, strange energy days, sometimes there's just a level of energy that you can feel, and stuff is weird. Electrical systems are weird. It affects people's moods. I have a hard time characterizing it. It's almost like there's a buzzing in the air on some days.
Interesting.
And on days like that, yeah, weirdness can ensue.
So there's a book that's pretty well known, and I think it's listed on the site, Betsy's Wedding.
Yes,
so
correct.
what is that book?
Betsy's Wedding is a book in the children's department that we had. This was years ago. The policy had been with that administration to kind of downplay the ghost, particularly for kids, and there had been some recent loss in the community. I think there was around the time of the terrible plane crash out on the north side, and there were a couple of terrible plane crashes. So I'm not even clear which plane crash it was, but the sense was that the community's mood was kind of raw about loss and death.
Right.
So the ghost was being downplayed, and as a librarian, children's librarian, was explaining that, the ghost, we don't talk much about her anymore. We don't see her much. She doesn't make any kind of a lot of interactions anymore. At that moment, that particular book popped off the shelf and onto the floor.
She was telling you.
Still here.
Yep. And I'll try and find that book to show them a little bit later.
We do have that downstairs. So
Okay.
we keep it in the reference section because people look for it. So.
Yeah, pretty popular book.
It is.
What do you think the Gray Lady looks like?
Well, from all accounts, she, when seen, is very much in a dress, very much a darker color gray kind of dress. Apparently, you can see through the figure when contact is made, actual eyesight contact, and just about everybody describes some kind of a veil.
Okay.
So
are there any smells or mists that appear like when she's around?
the odor that, whether she's seen or not, the odor that's associated with the Gray Lady is a smell of very strong and very cheap perfume. Some people describe it as being almost kind of like patchouli, but maybe even stronger. Somebody else said taboo. I don't really know about perfumes, but yeah, just a very strong odor of perfume.
Okay.
And then as far as mists go, people have described mists happening here, including the taps, the ghost hunters.
Yeah.
When they were here, their study was inconclusive, but they said we did Grant and Jay had an experience in the Baird room when they were on a break. And what they said was they saw a mist,
Wow.
kind of climb the wall. And they really couldn't report that on their show because they didn't have it on film. So, it has to be on film for them to talk about it.
Yeah. And then what kind of attire does she wear? Like you said, the veil and things like that.
Yeah, that's what we've heard.
Okay. So when was the ghost cam first installed?
First ghost cam went in 1999, and then more cams were installed after that.
Mm-hmm.
We went up to 6 cams, and then some of the cams kind of fallen into some disrepair, and the company that we were working with is not really interested in kind of maintaining those, so we may be doing something different there soon.
Okay. Can you still see us pretty well, Mom? Okay. And then any stories behind the webcams?
The webcams have been huge.
Mm-hmm.
Millions of hits a year. I want to say at peak times 40 million hits a year.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
And it's global.
Especially for Evansville.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then because it's the internet.
Right.
Everybody in the world has access to these, and we're apparently huge in South Korea.
Huh.
So
interesting.
Yeah, NBC South Korea actually came here, sent a team here to do an interview with me.
Okay.
We went today.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
But the one that is pretty well known is the first day that it launched, it crashed, correct?
It did. That was in the early days of the internet, and there weren't a lot of internet companies that were offering service. So we were with our internet provider, and they provided most of Evansville's service for the internet. And when the Associated Press picked up on the fact that this cam had been introduced, it was in newspapers pretty much nationwide, even in some cases worldwide, about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So on the night of Halloween of that year, 1999, there were so many people trying to get to the cam and capture images and make it, see what they could see.
Mm-hmm.
It crashed. Not only did it crash our cam, it crashed the internet into and out of Evansville for that night, and we apologize.
And so, how many views per day do you get?
I have no idea per day. It's a huge number.
Okay.
Per day.
So typically how many visitors come to the Gray Lady tours?
Generally in the last couple weeks of October, we'll have about 2,500 people through the doors. Now that's not necessarily all people going to the tours, but they're coming to look for the ghost on their own and not necessarily tour related. I'm going to say about 1,500 for the tours. That's off the top of my head.
Okay. And then how long has the Gray Lady tours been going on?
We did the first Gray Lady tour happened. Oh, this is terrible. It happened in 1995.
Okay.
And I said we were planning to do a talk. I'm trying to remember the subject of the talk. I want to say that it was the Salem witchcraft trials. I think that was the subject of the talk.
Okay.
And I said, hey, to the adult service librarian who had set that program up, hey, why don't we, just for fun, do a ghost tour for anybody who comes? And he thought about it. He was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's try that out. So we had arranged to have some extra staff here that evening to do tours of the different floors. 800 people showed up.
Oh, wow.
We only had planned on doing one tour. 800 people showed up, and they were lined up. They were lined up double file from the front door of the library all the way down the driveway to First Avenue.
Oh, wow.
There were traffic jams in the parking lot. There were traffic jams out on First Avenue. The police came and directed traffic. We have since learned to plan better, and now we do, I want to say it's like 27 different tours over the course of the month of October.
Oh, wow. So I thought of one of the stories that they do tell, it's not on here, but tell during the ghost tours, is the one about the bathroom in the back that the running water started running and whenever somebody was inside of there.
Yes. Yeah. Now we also have security cameras. At the time, we still do have security cameras down there, but there were cameras outside of that area. They were analog cameras, black and white. It didn't record anywhere. It was really for the staff just to see anybody who was walking around the basement area. So, yeah, there was a staff member who was in the restroom. The restroom was locked. Her stall door was locked, and she heard this water just gushing in the sink, and she was like, you know, calling, who's there? How did you get through the locked door, essentially? Didn't get a response, so she got out, and I guess in this tumultuous moment, the people in the children's department, a figure moving very quickly down the hallway, away from the bathroom. So,
oh wow,
yeah, and even recently, the gray lady has been captured on various security cameras, and sometimes, and the staff will witness it, and even multiple staff members at the same time will see a woman in a Victorian dress, and will often disappear, like either from the head down or from the feet up. It just depends on when they're watching it. So
yeah, I don't want to give too much away because
sure.
you want to come to the Gray Lady tours.
Oh, we do this for, like, our tours are a half an hour long, so you know there are different stories that will be shared. We have so many stories that we can't even get all the stories in on the tour that we do. Otherwise, we'd lose people's interest, I'm afraid, or we'd have, you know, a really, really long tour, and
yeah.
people don't want to do that. So, yeah, I definitely encourage people, just, you know, come and you know, do
check
the tour.
it out. Yeah, it's awesome.
Ask questions. So. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and I think we'll be here this Saturday evening at the 9 to 9:45, and then next Saturday, I think next Saturday too. So just a couple more questions. So any upcoming projects and expansion plans?
That was a tough expansion.
Yeah.
So we always have projects happening. I mean, a building this age takes a lot of care and feeding. So, you know, we just finished painting the exterior trim, cleaning the stonework, you know, doing some of the sheet metal repair that needed to happen, even some stone repair that needed to happen. We're not planning any expansions soon. I mean, we just did one in 2015, and that's going to have to last us for a bit.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And then any comments?
Any comment? I'm sorry.
Any comments, like any whatever you
No,
want to share.
This is a great time of year, and people really enjoy it, and we want people to enjoy it. We want to connect people with Willard Library, and we want to do that year round. So one of the things that I like to emphasize when I give a ghost tour is that it's great that everybody's here for the ghost, but we're at 24, well, not 24/7, but we are a library that's here 7 days a week, and we're here to be a public library. We have a full-service public library. We're popular fiction, popular nonfiction. It's a great place to do genealogy. So I would like to encourage people, you know, come more often than just October.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
there's so much going on down here. It's unbelievable. We do 700 different programs a year, so
wow.
everybody's invited.
And especially like if you guys come, they have great programs for kids too as well.
And all of our programs are free of charge.
Free of charge, awesome. And then I think you've got one coming up where a local author is coming to talk about his paranormal book writing. So maybe you guys can check that out too.
True.
All right. Well, I think that's about it.
Thank
you so much, Greg.